72 days until the 2024 election and 22 days until early voting begins in Pennsylvania. And Democrats, they are turning convention enthusiasm into action. Breaking this morning in a new memo, the Harris-Walz campaign says it has raised $540 million since launching a little more than a month ago. That is a record for any campaign in history. The campaign also saw nearly 200,000 new volunteer shifts since just the start of the DNC on Monday. Joining us now, Mitch Landrieu, National Co-Chair for the Harris-Walz campaign. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at this memo that Alicia was noting from. Jen O'Malley Dillon had a memo out today who noted that the convention marked your biggest week of organizing since the start of the campaign. Volunteers signed up for nearly 200,000 shifts since Monday. As she noted, I mean, this momentum, it seems as though you are turning this momentum into action and using the infrastructure. Are you ready for early voting?
100%. You know, last week was an incredible week. You haven't seen something like that in a long time, and it was a new way forward. She introduced herself and basically said, I am you. We captured the flag, but from the beginning, we said no matter how excited everybody is, we have a close race. We need to get to work, and as you know, we have been organizing really aggressively. And as a consequence, you're seeing this great surge of enthusiasm. So when you look at those fundraising numbers, $540 million is a lot by any measurement, 200,000 volunteers. And the idea now is to put it to work. The good news is we have a structure around which we can put that to work that we've been building for the last, couple of months. And so we're going to get out there, the vice president, and of course, Governor Walz is crisscrossing the country. Those thousands of volunteers are going to get out there and knock on doors. You can't take anything for granted, but it's like building blocks. So 31 days ago when she came into this race, she started going like this, and now it's just like a rocket ship. But you got to keep putting the pedal to the metal. You got to keep your shoulder to the wheel. Nobody should be convinced of any other thing, that this is going to be a very close election. It's going to be a goal line decision, and we got to get everybody to the polls.
I also thought the breakdown of those numbers were interesting. If we can pull that up, a third of this week's donations originated from first-time contributors. Almost 1/5 of those first-time contributors were young voters, 2/3 of which were women. Teachers and nurses continue to be among the most common donor occupations. What does that tell you, Mr. Mayor, about what a Harris-Walz coalition is likely to look like?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is not complicated. Elections are about addition, not subtraction. They're about including people, not excluding people. The other team basically has said, if you don't look like us, if you don't talk like us, if you don't act like us, if you don't think like us, we don't want to have anything to do with you. Please stay away. What the vice president has done is said, I am going to be the president for everybody. We want to reach out. And so what you see in the numbers is us succeeding in adding to the number of people and the groups of people that are going to be for us. But at the end of the day, the message, and Michelle Obama delivered this, was do something. Get out, talk to a friend, call somebody, do whatever you think you can do to make sure that the future comes and is not stymied by Donald Trump and his really kind of dark view of what America is.
Next week, Mr. Mayor, the vice president and Governor Walz are going to be back out on the campaign trail. They're going to Georgia, and I hear that they're going to Georgia together. The vice president will then do a separate event in Savannah. We also have reporting that notes soon the vice president and Governor Walz will sit for a joint interview. Is that joint interview happening this week on that bus tour in Georgia?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question. I have no reason to believe that at some point that it will not. You will see both of these people who have been very energetic doing great stuff together, and they're doing it separately. But, you know, they have been crisscrossing the country talking to voters directly. And at some point in time, I don't know if it's going to be this week or not, but I'm sure it's going to happen.
Well, Mr. Mayor, staying on Georgia, a historic investment that the campaign is making in Georgia. Is the campaign committed to carrying Georgia?
100%. You saw on the previous show, Jason Carter was on, who was President Carter's grandson, as you know, and you saw during the convention passing the torch to the next generation of leaders. Jason was on. We also had John F. Kennedy's grandson on, but focused on Georgia. They got new energy when the vice president took over. Senator Warnock, as you know, gave an incredible speech at the convention, and Senator Ossoff is there, as well as Lucy McBath and a bunch of other folks. We really think that we have a chance to win to Georgia, and they're going to compete there in a very hard way. And we're going to make Donald Trump defend every ounce of ground in America.
make him defend every ounce. You know, Mr. Mayor, I was really struck by during the convention, there were a lot of maybe unlikely voices folks didn't think they would see on the stage. And who stood out to me was D.L. Hughley. And D.L. Hughley, who is a comedian, for folks that don't know, he has actually he's done prior events with the vice president, specifically on her, I think it was a tour, opportunity tour, talking about economic opportunity, black businesses, so on and so forth. And he stood on the stage and talked about how he had said things about the vice president in the past, and then he did his research and now feels differently. It struck me that was very intentional programming from a convention perspective. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, as you know, when the vice president took office, people didn't really give her much of a chance. And for the first couple of years, they kind of dogged her out, and they made up stories about her, and they didn't really know who she was. While the entire time, and someone you know this really, really well, she was out there really, you know, covering her bases, doing the things she was supposed to be doing. People are surprised now that she's so fantastic. She's always been that good. And so I think DL and some other people, maybe early on, were really not paying attention to the details. And now that, again, here's what we have. We got the facts. We got the receipts. And once you show them the receipts, 16 million jobs, when you show them who's getting the jobs, when you show the record number of applications, especially for small African-American businesses, all of those things actually turn people. What I liked about what DL said was that, look, I didn't look hard enough, and now that I did, I like what I see. But the thing that I liked the most about what he said was he confronted Donald Trump's racism relating to the vice president and said that she's been black longer than he's been a Republican. I kind of stopped when he said that because it's true. Right?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, she's been black her whole life, and Donald Trump recently became a Republican in the last, 8 years.
He don't know what he is, so it doesn't matter.
Truer words have never been spoken. Mr. Mayor, RFK's endorsement of Donald Trump, how are you factoring that into the math of this race?
Not much. I don't think it means much at all. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, Jack Schlossberg, who is John F. Kennedy's grandson, and the entire Kennedy family, except for him, has indicated that please don't think that he's really representing the heart, the mind, or the values of Robert Kennedy or John F. Kennedy. He just does not. And he didn't have much of a following before. Of course, every vote matters. You know, you want to have everybody. You can't get everybody. But from my perspective, you know, the vice president and Tim Walz are doing great. And I don't really think it's much of anything, to be honest with you.
Are you concerned about any of the third-party threats? While RFK is out, I mean, Dr. West is still in, Jill Stein. I mean, there are many people who are trying to gain ballot access in key battleground states.
I don't want anybody to think that I don't care about everything. Every vote matters, and every vote that's siphoned off of the vice president actually is in favor of Donald Trump. So I want people to know about that. But in terms of a major groundswell of being able to move a lot of voters over, but you know, this is going to be a game of inches, so everything counts.
Mitch Landrieu, national co-chair for the Harris-Walz campaign. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.